Welcome to the Disney Cruise Line Blog Podcast. On this episode, we're going to sit down and talk about the recently announced summer 2020 itineraries. Now that we've had a couple days to think about them, look them over, book one, pay a deposit. Here's my credit card number, 601. Anyway, here, take that credit card back. We're done using it for tonight.
Yeah, we're going to need it on Friday, though, so let's not put it too far away.
Yeah. All right. So on Thursday, February 28th, Disney quietly announced their 2020.
Quietly?
Quietly. It was up before 9 o'clock. 8 o'clock hour, we had the itineraries. But they didn't bother to really announce them until closer to, I think, 10 o'clock, 10:30. Anywho, the itineraries came out last week, which you kind of thought was much of the same. But once you kind of peel it back, it's not really a lot of the same. It may look like it's the same stuff, but it's pretty diverse for the most part. First of all, we're recording this on Monday. The Platinum and Disney's Golden Oak residents have booked.
Of course, we're both of those.
Right, sure. Or one of those. We've had some time. We've seen prices. We're going to talk a little. We're going to add a little more thought to this, and just instead of just reading off the new itineraries. But anyway, back to the wonder. That's kind of the. I don't want to use the word boring, but I feel like I'm going to use the word boring.
No, I wouldn't say boring. I think we've talked about this before. That Alaska, all cruise lines go to Alaska in the summer. It's kind of, I hate to say bread and butter, but it works. People book it. People like it. I mean, look at us. We've been there once before. We're going again. However, I like the diverse itineraries and I like the longer cruises. I think, Scott, you would agree with that, right?
Absolutely. I'm not saying anything wrong with taking the Disney Wonder to Alaska by any means. I'm just saying what I'm getting to here is in the summer of 2020, they're just doing 7-night cruises out of Vancouver. If you remember, the last itinerary release ended. They repositioned to Vancouver, and then they go to Hawaii, and then they come back to Hawaii, and that's kind of where the Wonder let off. And you kind of thought in these past couple of years they've been doing 9 nights, a 5-night Hawaiian cruise. An Alaskan cruise, along with the regular 7-night cruises of varying. They've kind of toyed around with a couple different Alaskan cruises, the 7-night variety. But in 2020, they're really just doing 2 different 7-night itineraries. You've got the standard one that they've always done. Well, I say always, but Disney officially announced, a month ago or so, that instead of saying they're going to Tracy Arm, they're going to Dawes Glacier, which is the glacier at Endicott Arm.
Right. I know that has confused some people. They have mentioned that Endicott, Tracy, Dawes, they think that they're all different, but Tracy Arm Fjord was one, and then, Endicott Arm has the Dawes Glacier there. So they are one and the same. And I have to admit, we saw the Dawes Glacier. We loved it. It was great. It's a good experience.
The regular 7-night is the same 7-night, but it's listed as Dawes Glacier, Alaska, which is Endicott Arm, and really it's the same area as Tracy Arm. It's just a fork in the fjords. You go north to one, south to the other.
Yeah, it's great.
But they're both great experiences. I shouldn't say we've never been in Tracy Arm, but seeing Endicott Arm, it was pretty cool. And
the naturalist was the one that Doug, who was like,
he said Endicott
you're going to
was
a better glacier. Yeah, that's good.
So they finally made the official statement, because the last couple of years with the ice and everything in Tracy, they've been unable to navigate into there. So Endicott has been the default, even though they've continued to say Tracy Arm and all, like even on the T-shirts it said Tracy Arm. The other, so that's the major 7 or the standard 7-night cruise this summer, and actually the October 24th, 2020 7-night Alaskan cruise was announced just a couple hours after the itineraries came out. That would be a Disney Vacation Club member cruise for 2020. So that's not bookable yet. I believe the date is October 6th. I'll check on that and put it in the show notes. That for DVC members interested in booking. The there are 2 dates for the alternate 7-night Alaskan cruise. What it does is it's pretty much the same 7-night cruise, except instead of going to Skagway, it goes to Icy Strait Point, Castaway Key of
The Castaway Key of Alaska.
Yeah, exactly. It's great, but if you're not doing a port adventure, you're kind of done walking around that port in probably 2 hours.
Honestly, I will tell you, if you have Icy Strait Point and you're going to do whale watching at all during your trip, Icy Strait Point is the place to do it. You've got plenty you're in that port forever. Most of the cruises, it's like from 9:30 or 9 to like 6 p.m. You've got plenty of time to walk around. They've got a little like forest there where there's kind of like this little nature trail, which only takes
It's a cool place to walk around.
It takes like a half an hour to walk through.
It's like walking around Castaway Key then.
They have a little museum there, which is cool. The donut place is not to be missed. You know, the food there is fine. They've got the Alaskan food, the crabs and stuff out there by the museum, and then closer to where your ship docks, they've got like a place that's got beer and stuff. You can go into Huna.
The beer flight was full-size beers in the beer flight for a ridiculously low price.
But you're definitely done in a couple hours. So that we're doing that this year. That's my recommendation.
Whoa. We are?
My recommendation is if you're going to book whale watching on any of the ports, because Ketchikan and Juneau, even if you didn't do anything, you can walk around still. They're towns. They're fun. Skagway too. But this is a moot point because you're switching it out for Icy Strait. That's my recommendation for whale watching excursions. It's a great port for that. The people there are super nice. It's great. Icy Strait is good. But again, that's the port that whale watching or booking some sort of, they've got that zip line there. They've got some other stuff, but whale watching that's a great place to do it. And we'll be doing that here coming up this summer.
News to me.
Oh gosh. Scott, always the last to know everything.
So that the alternate 7-night, as I'm calling it here, that goes to Icy Strait Point is July 20th and September 7th.
September.
Yes.
Ooh.
I think it's the last one.
Chile.
Anywho, that's why I'm calling the Alaskan season kind of boring, just because it's back to the 7-night cruises, no variation. There's no Hubbard Glacier, which we thought was amazing.
Which we'll be seeing again. Oh, Scott's surprised again. But Scott, am I wrong? Isn't that all they announced for the Wonder was just 7-night sailing?
Yes.
So there's no 5 nights. There's nothing out of San Diego. There's no Cabo.
No, it just begins and ends in Vancouver doing Alaskans.
Okay.
And the other thing, you're not getting any opportunities to go to Hubbard Glacier in 2020, or if you're interested in going to Sitka, that's also not an option in 2020. So they've really, limited Alaska in terms of the port.
Well, they've made it easy. It's just 7-7-7-7 instead of having to do a 9-night and then having to make that up with, the
5-night to get back on the Monday.
Yeah, it just makes it easy to yeah.
So,
but it works. I mean, Alaska's great. We've been there and we're going back. It's a place that you can revisit multiple times and see different things, and it works. And they should have a ship there like all the other cruise lines. So, good for them.
What ship do you want to talk about next?
I think we go to the second most boring ship.
Well, not boring ship.
In terms of itinerary excitement, we go to the Dream because she does her normal 3 and 4 with a few 5 nights.
Also, the 4 and 5 nights are featuring 2 stops at Castaway Key here and there.
Fan favorite for sure. Also, they always break the bank, but as long as people will pay. So,
the Dream, June 2020, 3 4-night sailings as usual. Port Canaveral, Nassau, Castaway Key, and the 4-night has that sea day. That's the bulk of the summer offerings for the Dream. You've got the sprinkling in of a 4-night, that changes the port order, and then you've got a couple that are the 4 nights that have 2 stops at Castaway Key with a day in Nassau, and then you have 4 or 5 nights in that early June. Like, if schools are kind of letting out, it's still kind of early. What do schools go to in June? Because that's another hot topic of the summer.
It varies. For us, we're out at like May 28th. For some other people, they are to mid-June. So colleges are out in May. I mean, it definitely varies. But what you usually have with the Dream are people that decide that they either want to book a 3, 4, or 5 night cruise, and then they kind of look at pricing. And I don't really think that, people aren't studying the Dream going, well, this one does this and this one does that. You just kind of go with what date matches up and your price range and all that good stuff. So
yeah, because the 5 night double dips are June 12th, June 21st, June 26th, and July 5th.
yeah, so you're out of school, right?
Yeah, so you're ramping up. The schools are letting out. There's options if you want to go on a 5 night on the Dream with two stops at Castaway Cay and a day at day in Nassau and a day and the end of the day at sea. But for the most part, that's what the Dream's doing.
And if I were a person that was looking at these cruises, I would absolutely wait until August, and I would book the ding, 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 the Fantasy.
Whoa, hold on. You're getting ahead of the game here.
The big news, Scott, the big news is that the Fantasy is changing things up a little bit. And the best cruise on the Fantasy, it's not the 9 night. It's the 3 night double dip to Castaway Cay. Would you agree?
Not enough sea days for my liking.
I know, but still.
So if you're looking for those double dips on the Dream, on the Fantasy, crazy, right? Still can't really comprehend it. You've got August 25th, August 28th are 3 night cruises, Port Canaveral, Castaway Cay, and Castaway Cay. You figure that out? It's Port Canaveral, Castaway Cay, Port Canaveral, Castaway Cay, Castaway Cay. So in 1 week, you can spend 4 days at Castaway Cay and 2 days at Port Canaveral.
And don't think
Did I do the math right?
don't think that they're gonna just stay there docked. You're going out to sea. You're gonna make a square and you're gonna come back.
Yeah, good times. There's also another on September 4th. There's another 3 night. It's pretty much basic 3 night. Port Canaveral, Nassau, and Castaway Cay, and another 3 night, which is August 22nd. Port Canaveral, Sea, Castaway Cay. They also do a 4 night. Port Canaveral, Nassau, Castaway Cay, and a day at sea, kind of the standard Dream 4 night. And then, when you just don't get enough opportunities to go to the Bahamas, Nassau and Castaway Cay, the Fantasy comes again with 5 nights option on September 24th. Port Canaveral, Sea, Castaway Cay, Nassau, Castaway Cay. So that's kind of the Bahamian offerings from the Fantasy.
And why is the Fantasy doing all these Bahamian offerings, Scott?
It's crazy, right? Why is it? Well, if you go back to the Dream, you'll notice if you were looking at kind of things, there's an itinerary gap between August 24th and September 14th, 2014. So that would take it in the fall of 2020. The Disney Dream was last in dry dock in 2015. So she's due. So the only thing I can speculate unofficially, based on, the timing of this, is the Dream's going to dry dock in 2020, and the Fantasy, instead of trying to fill up, 7 night Eastern or Western cruise, they're going to kind of tap into that.
They've got to cater to that public, yep.
Those land and sea vacation
For
options that
sure.
they're going to miss out on at Port Canaveral, with Walt Disney World. So it seems like a logical thing for the Fantasy to do to kind of bridge the gap between, that time of year to offer a little of this, little of that. And as a result of these varying itineraries, that are taking the Fantasy off the Saturday departures, those 7 night Saturday departures, you've got a mix of 5 night Western Caribbean cruises. And there are actually 2 different versions of this itinerary, but it just depends on the order. It's flipped order. It's Port Canaveral, day at sea, Cozumel, Sea, Castaway Cay, and then there's one off there are a total of 4 of these 5 night Western Caribbean cruises on the Fantasy. There's July, and then 3 of them are in September. And those will just visit Cozumel, bookended by a day at sea, and depending on which one it is, it goes to Castaway Cay either on the first day or the last day. And then for the rest of the summer, you've got the standard 7 night Eastern Caribbean cruises with Tortola, St. Thomas, and Castaway Cay, or the Western Caribbean cruises with Cozumel, Grand Cayman, Falmouth, and Castaway Cay, as your standard fare. And then, now here's my favorite part. I don't know if you saw this today, Emily. Since when they announced the cruises on February 28th. In the past, the Fantasy has been doing, Southern Caribbean cruises. They've gone to Aruba and stuff. So they announced they weren't doing an 11-night this year.
They couldn't get the arm, the leg, and the liver from people?
I don't know. That the 11-night last year went to Florida resident rates in March and remained available at Florida resident rates all the way up to sailing. And I almost want to say it opened up for cast member sailings too. I
believe it did.
So,
and probably travel agent, which we're not privy to, but probably.
It seemed like it wasn't the best selling cruise, or they were having a hard time at least filling it up to capacity, filling it up to, Mickey's ship is full kind of thing. There are no upgrades available status. So they announced a 9-night Southern Caribbean cruise, and kind of in that summer period. And this one leaves on June 27th. Now check out this originally announced Southern Caribbean cruise that goes to St. Kitts, Martinique, Antigua, St. Thomas, and Castaway Cay.
Sounds like an Eastern to me.
I don't know. You've got two
Except
traditional
for
Eastern
Kitts,
ports, two traditional Southern Caribbean, more or less Southern Caribbean ports, and one Bahamian port. So 2 + 2 + 1 does not equal a Southern Caribbean cruise. You throw a third Southern Caribbean port in there, I'll give it to you. But anyway, people commented on our post and on Twitter about this. And lo and behold, this morning, I think somebody saw through it. Even in the marketing materials they published in the press release, it said Southern Caribbean. So this was, a last minute and afterthought decision. It got renamed to a 9-night Eastern Caribbean cruise, which makes the most sense.
Correct.
I'd say it's an Eastern Caribbean cruise with a taste of the Southern.
Yeah.
I mean,
accurate.
You go far enough south to Martinique. Martinique's Southern Caribbean.
Yeah,
but I think it's a stretch to call it a true Southern Caribbean cruise if you're not going any further south or spending the bulk of your time in the Southern Caribbean. Anyway, it was just funny that, I noticed so many people were outspoken about the naming of this cruise. Funny that Disney kind of moved on the renaming of it, by release day. So we've covered the Wonder in Alaska. We've covered the Dream and Fantasy in the Bahamas and the Fantasy in the Caribbean. Mentioned the dry dock for the Dream, alleged dry dock for the Dream, suspected dry dock for the Dream, whatever wording doesn't lock me in. And that leaves us to the most exciting ship, which
you probably need a whole podcast for because it's so exciting.
Right. So here's the deal. The Disney Magic, which I haven't been shy about this, is my favorite ship. And one of the reasons it's my favorite ship, it has the most unique itinerary offering, and more so than ever in 2020, there are 16 cruises that were announced for the Magic in the summer of 2020. How many itineraries are repeated? What do you think?
I think you told me, but I probably wasn't listening.
0.
Right. 0.
All 16 cruises, the actual itinerary is unique. I mean, you could visit the same ports multiple times if you were to go back to 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 back. I stopped counting.
So what you're saying is we should transatlantic on the Miami.
Right.
From Miami.
And just live on the Magic. And
just stay there and then transatlantic back.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
But really, you'll visit the same ports a few times, but really...
It's fine. You stay on the ship that time.
If you look at the offerings of the Magic, they're completely different. The itinerary itself is unique. In fact, out of those 16 sailings, 13 of them are brand new. I lost track. There are like 6 new ports of call for the Magic.
Cool.
One of them's... I'm just going to jump to it. They announced... Rostock, Germany is a port, which is Warnemünde, butchering the word, the Berlin kind of access port that has been used in the past. And somebody on, I think Friday, emailed me about that, saying that, well, Rostock's really Warnemünde. I'm butchering the name, I'm sorry. But that's, anywho. I just did the Disney Cruise Line chat, which, take that with a grain of salt. because that's what was available at that time. And I knew I could at least get a response from them instead of an email going to some trash bucket. And they did say they are going further into Rostock at a port that's not the Warmenoon Cruise Center. Or
Okay.
they actually said it's a different terminal than where they've gone in the past. So as you might look on, at least our site, we're showing Rostock, but we're also, different than Warmenoon. That's because of the information I'm going on after I talk to the, DCL's online chat people who actually are responsive to my questions, unlike other avenues. And so honestly, I may not know the actual truth of that until 2020 when they port, and I can see where they actually port. But
It didn't go there once, Scott. Is that the Northern European capitals, correct?
That's the Northern European.
I keep calling it capitals, but that's from back in the day. Yeah. And it's interesting because we didn't really have any summer. I of course had a wish list for 2020, and then we kind of thought it was going to be more of the same with Europe. We weren't exactly sure, and so I thought, I'd love to do the Northern European cruise and go to Sweden and maybe buzz over to Finland, and DCL goes to Russia and all that good stuff. And I thought, maybe we'll do that. But what I was truly hoping for, I cannot believe that Disney Cruise Line actually came out with. But Scott, going back to the magic, let's talk about the surprises that they gave us.
They're going back to Greece.
And I have been personally talking about going to Greece for so long. It's kind of funny. Scott and I, one of our guilty pleasures is we watch Below Deck on Bravo. Below Deck Mediterranean, spent time in Greece. And I kept saying, look how gorgeous Mykonos, Santorini, Crete. We need to go to Greece. Greece would be great. Is Disney Cruise Line ever going back to Greece? I even priced out a different cruise line because it was taking Disney forever to, not forever, but their usual, to announce their 2020 summer. And on Friday morning, as Scott was screaming from his office, Greece.
Thursday morning,
I'm sorry.
Like at 8:30.
Began jumping up and down with excitement. And yeah, Greece.
I'm going to rattle off just...
But no Venice.
Yeah.
Not like last time.
Whoa. No Venice.
No Venice.
Okay, I'm just going to rattle off down the list of the itineraries just to kind of... I'm not going to go through each one in detail because
you can do that on Disney Cruise Line's website or the
Disney
blog.
Cruise Line blog.com, which would be great because you can see these cruises today if you're listening to this before your booking window opens. Anyway, I'm just going to rattle off the itineraries in order. 12-night eastbound transatlantic cruise from Miami to Barcelona. Then in Barcelona, 7-night Mediterranean cruise, followed by a different 7-night Mediterranean cruise with another, then followed by a 7-night Mediterranean cruise from Barcelona to Civitavecchia. Once in Rome, it'll be a 9-night Mediterranean cruise with Greek Isles from Civitavecchia. Sounds like an awesome cruise. Then there's a 9-night Mediterranean with the Greek Isles cruise, after that, which features different ports, Greek ports. Then, when you just don't have enough Greek Isles options, they finish kind of with a 12-night Mediterranean.
Oh, the one that you mentioned, Scott, adds Croatia.
Dubrovnik, yes.
Yeah.
Then they kind of end their time in Civitavecchia with a 12-night Mediterranean cruise with Greek Isles, but it's kind of like the perfect Mediterranean cruise, if you will.
Yeah, because it's Greece and Italy, really. It's not just Greek Isles.
It hits both the Med and the Greek Isles in kind of an entirety.
Yeah, totally.
It's not the standard Mediterranean cruise option with Greek Isles, but it does give you a full coverage over those 12 nights, and it ends on a sea day.
And it ends in Barcelona.
Yeah. And so once in Barcelona, they're going to do a 5-night Mediterranean cruise, a 7-night, I'm sorry, I misspoke. That 5-night Mediterranean cruise is from Barcelona. And then following that, it's a 7-night Western Europe cruise, which is actually the repositioning cruise from Barcelona to Dover. In Dover, they're going to do an 11-night Northern European cruise from Dover to Copenhagen. Is that the one that goes to Iceland?
The Dover to Copenhagen? No, that's the northern one. So the one on July 25th, the 11-night Northern Europe one, is the one that goes to Rostock, Germany, the Newport of Poland, overnight in St. Petersburg, Estonia, Stockholm. That's a good one. I thought that would be a very good cruise from Dover to Copenhagen. And then you go, you do some more Northern Europe cruises
An 8
there.
night.
Yeah.
The 7-night. Oh, here's the 10-night from...
I like this 7-night here because it goes Estonia, Russia, Finland, Sweden. That's another good one. And then you go from Copenhagen back to Dover, and that's where you have your Norway and Iceland cruise. But
which is different because it's going to Reykjavik for just the day.
it goes to Reykjavik for the day. It doesn't go to
Akureyri.
Akureyri. And I really think that, honestly...
I'd give up Kirkwall's on this one, right?
Yeah, I'd give up Kirkwall. It goes to Oslo and Stavanger, though, which are great.
I'd rather spend another day in Reykjavik than go to Kirkwall. But that's just my opinion from going to both, doing this years ago. But
right. Then they still have a Norwegian fjord cruise for you. And then they have the British Isles. And then actually, this is a great cruise. The 5-night from Dover, that's Amsterdam, Belgium. You can overnight for Paris, which would be awesome, and then back to Dover. So it's a quick 5-night, which I'm thinking that they want people to bookend the 7 and the 5-night together. But if I lived in Europe, I would definitely book this is cool. This is a cool cruise to go to Amsterdam, Belgium, and Paris. So the Magic, she certainly keeps it dynamic, and I'm glad that it's not just your typical, same old med with, Norway and Iceland and all that good stuff. So I think they've done a good job this year with the Magic.
Yeah, I've always said, I love the Magic for its uniqueness of itineraries, but they really went above and beyond this year with kind of basically saying, here's our allotment. We're not going to really, there's repeated stuff, but...
Well, the crew likes that, though, too. So, happy crew, happy guests, happy everything. They get to go all over. And you're right, you get to visit several different ports, but you could visit it multiple times. But still, there's a lot to do in all those ports. So, look at Scott. We did the Mediterranean cruise. And in the one port in Italy, we chose to go to Pisa and a winery in Tuscany. We can go back and go to Florence. There's still a lot to see and do, So I was pretty excited. I was, booking is always get you on pins and needles until you get that reservation in your inbox. And, we got it and we were glad, and we're looking forward to next summer for sure.
I think what you're kind of seeing, though, with the Fantasy doing Bahamian cruises, the 5 nights, and the Magic, the Dream. If you're familiar with an earlier post, I think it was late last year, PortMiami, it was revealed that they're working with Disney Cruise Line on bringing a full-time Dream class ship to PortMiami with, a dedicated cruise terminal. And by doing that, that would be a year-round deployment for Disney Cruise Line at PortMiami with 5, and 4-night cruises, which I say that just kind of going off what has been made public record out of, the Miami-Dade, information. But it's kind of, I think it's kind of also sampling, those additional 5 and 4-night options, the 5-night Western, the 5-night Bahamian cruise on the Magic.
You're getting ready for those sister ships.
Which that could very well be what we're going to see out of Miami once the new ship comes to Port Canaveral and there's a redeployment to Miami. So those cruises are kind of, it's my personal opinion that those are kind of, look to the future. Obviously, these are out of Port Canaveral, but, this is potentially what we could be seeing in a few years when a Dream class ship is deployed to Port Canaveral Port Miami year round, doing 5, and 4-night cruises between the Bahamas and probably the Western Caribbean and Lighthouse Point, which will be coming online eventually.
Lighthouse Point.
Yeah. Nobody's talked about Lighthouse Point in a while. Anyway, so as awesome as the Magic itineraries are, we kind of just glanced over them because really there's so much detail in there. It's pointless to listen to me talk about it, and I'm going to butcher some of the names. Anyway, it's just go and check them out. They're really cool. Some of them are really cool. And we, since the cruises are online, depending on when you're listening to this, I hope to publish this on Tuesday when the gold booking window opens, but and since the prices aren't online, I usually send people to the Disboard's Disney Cruise Line forum where they have usually an opening day thread where people post quotes.
It's actually a very helpful thread.
Yeah, it's been long going, back in the day when you could only call and the prices weren't even online until, first time cruisers could book, general public. So it's a very helpful place. This year, I got a lot of people asking me about pricing because, Disney stopped giving starting at prices a long time ago, years ago. So people don't, even up until this morning, Emily and I were unclear of, is this cruise priced accordingly to what we want to pay kind of thing.
Yeah, we had our top 3 choices, and
it came down to what they came out at, right? For the most part.
We were hoping for Greece, and if that didn't work, then I was, my third choice, the family's third choice would have been one of the Northern European ones because we haven't done that yet. So
we had part of the problem is your booking window opens, but you want to book early in the morning because that's when things are the cheapest, especially if you're using a travel agent. You're putting in a request, with your agent to say, I'd like to book this cruise, but if that time it takes to go back and forth with the travel agent, because a lot of it's done online now, it might be, that cruise could be creeping up a couple $100,
yeah,
is throughout the day. And so after getting a couple messages and stuff about pricing, and I pulled all the pricing, just kind of the baseline pricing for 2 adults for every single cruise of the 2020 summer sailing, and put them in a post today. It's real baseline. Like I said, 2 adults, the starting available price for inside, ocean view, veranda, and concierge. It's just kind of like if you were to go to the website, it's kind of the same format across for the sailing of the start, kind of the lowest starting price.
It would include taxes and fees.
Yeah, that
port
the
fees. Yep,
taxes, port fees, whatever. Line for double occupancy. Just kind of give you an idea to see. You may already have, depending on where your threshold is for wanting to book a cruise, if you're worried about the price, kind of getting a rough idea what it is for 2 adults, then maybe not waste time having a travel agent call for you or what have you. It's kind of give you a better idea of where you're at when your booking window opens. And obviously, what I posted in that article today may not be the same price as tomorrow and the next day and so on, because it's all subject to current availability and people putting cruises on hold, which if you're not really serious about the cruise, I'm just going to get on a little soapbox. Don't put cruises on hold if you don't really aren't serious about booking them.
Drive the price up.
Because you're driving the price up, and once you release that hold in the room, it's great that you put your room back into inventory when you don't pay your deposit after 24 hours, but guess what? The pricing doesn't drop down to the previous tier accordingly, at least from what we've been told.
Definitely not.
So you could have, all of one category get booked up or held on booking days, and only 50% of those rooms actually have deposits paid and people stay in. But guess what? The price has already gotten jacked up for that category, and so you're paying premium for the rest of the rooms.
You got it.
I could be wrong, so if this has changed since the last time we've been told about this, let me know. Wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong, but it's worth knowing. But
and the way pricing goes in the summer too is the earlier in the summer, in June, it's always a little less expensive, and then it starts to kind of peak in July, beginning of August, then it starts to taper off end of August and September, and Disney definitely uses the surge pricing with the schools. So we happen to be fortunate that we're out at the very, very end of May, around Memorial Day, and then we go back to school early August. So we would are able to make use of the, lower end pricing in, the beginning of June. And then there are the folks that have the school schedule that, they start back at the end of August. So it definitely varies. But I mean, I have to admit, I don't want Disney Cruise Line to hear this, but I was pleasantly surprised to see some of the things they were charging, and then others of the things you just kind of like laugh and say.
They don't listen to anything we're saying.
That's true.
I
Other stuff you kind of laugh at and you're like, forget it. So,
I mean, that's kind of the summary. I'll put links in the show notes to what we got, and potentially by the time you're reading this, everything's going to be on Disney's website, and happy booking. Have a question, comment, rumor, or just want to say hi? Call 321-765-3252 to leave a voicemail, and we just might include it in a future episode. You can reach us via the comments section on the website, email at contact@disneycruiselineblog.com, Twitter @thedclblog, and Facebook, facebook.com/Disney Cruise Line Blog.